بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعزائي طلبة وطالبات شهادة الثانوية العامة قسم رياضة لغات، أهلا بكم. اليوم سنتناول أول درس في مادة التفاضل والتكامل بعنوان تفاضل الدوال المتجهة. طبعا الدوال المتجهة هذا الدرس مهم جدا جدا. إيه هي الدوال المتجهة؟ وإيه استخداماتها في الحياة؟ أولا الدوال المتجهة اللي هي الساين والكوزين والتان، والانفرس اللي هي كوسيك وسيك وكوتان. طبعا الدوال المتجهه ديت مهمه جدا جدا في حياتنا اليوميه، وبنتناول الدرس ده وتطبيقاته على اساس ان احنا بنستخدمه في معظم الاوقات الحياه. بمعنى ان انت مثلا لو شفت سفينه موجوده جايه في البحر، السفينه ديت محتاج انك انت تحدد المسافه اللي هي هتوصل للشط او سرعتها او الزمن. هنقدر عن طريق الدوال المتجهة دي نستخدم ازاي تقدر تحدد بعد السفينة او الزمن اللي هتوصله او السرعة بتاعتها. ودي طبعا بنستخدمها جدا في الحروب. مثلا في استخدام الحروب في حرب اكتوبر مثلا كان بيحددوا الطائرات اللي هي موجودة في عند العدو. الطائرات ديت لما تقوم ازاي احدد سرعتها وازاي احدد الزمن بتاعها عشان اقدر اصيب الهدف بتاعي. فالدوال المتجهه ديت مهمه جدا جدا في حياتنا اليوميه. ثانيا في برضو بنستخدم الدوال المتجهه في ازاي تقدر تجيب ارتفاع اي جسم عن الارض. بمعنى لو اي جسم مرتفع عن الارض، طياره، قمر صناعي، بتقدر باستخدام الدوال المتجهه اللي هي الساين والكوزين والتان عن طريق الاوبزيت والادجيسنت والهايبوتنس، بتقدر تحدد البعد الجسم ده عن الارض. فالدرس ده مهم جدا جدا في حياتنا اليوميه، وهنستخدمه في طبعا الجامعات والدراسات العليا بمعنى اوسع. My dear student, welcome my dear student in our math program for second 3. Today we are taking the first lesson in differentiation. It's called differentiation of trigonometry function. What is the trigonometry function, my dear student? Trigonometry function means sine, cosine, tan, cosec, sec, cotan. What is the sine? The sine, the ratio between opposite side and hypotenuse side. What is the cosine? The ratio between adjacent side over hypotenuse side. What is the tan? What is the tan? Ratio between opposite side and adjacent side. And another rule of tan, sine divided cosine. When we use this sine, cosine, tan in our life, we use it in all time in our life. My dear student, look at introduction about differentiation of trigonometry function. Rate of change of the function f at a point a, f of a. Rate of change means limit when h tends to 0, f of a plus h minus f of a over h. My dear student, from the previous in secondary or in secondary, we were studied limit when h tends to 0 or h approaches to 0, f of a plus h minus f of a over a is rate of change or meaning of rate of change of the function f at point a and f of a. My dear student, this function is a condition, the limit of excited f dash of a equal limit when h tends to 0 or approaches to 0, f of a plus h minus f of a over h. Look at, my dear student, in the opposite figure, we studied the opposite figure. We have curve or two curves or more curves between the plane xy. Look at, my dear student, the slope of the tangent is known for all the point. The slope of the tangent is known for all the point but of the curve except for x equal b and x equal c. Look at, my dear student, the slope of the tangent. Look at the slope of the tangent is known at all points of the curves but except at point B and point C. Then the function, my dear student, is discontinuous at x equals c, so that it's not differentiation at c. Why? Because, my dear student, if the function is continuous at point, this is differentiable at this point. The condition of differentiability of the function at this point must be is continuous. But if the function is not continuous or discontinuous at this point, this function is not differentiability at the same point. The function f is differentiable at x equals a. Therefore, we deduce that differentiation of a is exist. My dear student, if the function is differentiability at x equals a, we deduce that differentiation or f dash of a is exist. Number 3, my dear student, the function f is not differentiability at x equal b. We say f dash b positive not equals f dash of b negative. What do you mean? F dash at b positive at right of b. If b equals 1, therefore when we find f dash of 1 positive not equals f dash of 1 negative. What do you mean 1 positive? 1 positive means, or b positive, the numbers after at right b on the number line. But if b dash b minus means the numbers before the point b at number line. My dear student, the function f is differentiable on open interval ab. Its derivative has been found at each point. Number 5, the function is defined on closed interval ab is differentiable if and only if each of f dash of a positive and f dash of b negative are exist, and the function is differentiable on open interval ab. Remember that, my dear student, the first rule of derivative d over dx, a f of x. A is constant, belongs to R, equals what? Equals a f dash x. A belongs to R. D over dx, f of x, positive or negative, g of x. What do you mean? Sum of two functions. When we find, my dear student, some differentiation of differentiability of sum or minus of two functions, we distribute d over dx, f of x or f dash x, positive or negative, g dash of x. We distribute differentiability about two or more function. After that, d over dx, f of x times g of x. What do you mean? When we find differentiable of multiply of two function, we write, look at f of x first, derivative second, plus second derivative first. First function f of x times derivative second g of x plus second g of x times f dash or derivative the first. Look at, my dear student, d over dx, f of x over g of x. What do you mean? Derivative, fraction, function. Fraction, function, f of x over g of x equals, my dear student, gx, look at the denominator square, gx square. In numerator, write gx times derivative of the numerator f dash x minus f of x times derivative of denominator g of x. Look at, my dear student, don't forget denominator not equals 0, g of x not equals 0. Why? Because in a function its denominator 0 is undefined. My dear student, if y equals f of z and z function of g, x, my dear student, y function of f, z function of g, what you deduce? Then y equals f g of x. Look at, or composed x is differentiable with respect to x. When we have two functions, the first y equal f of z, second z equals g of x, then y equal f gx. dy over dx, when we find dy over dx, we find dy over dz multiply dz over dx. Why? Because the first function y function in z, but z function in x. When we find dy over dx, we find at the first dy over dz, then multiply dz over dx. Or we find dy over dx and dx over dz, then divided. The first divided by the second, we deduce the same answer, dy over dx times dz over dx. Chain rule. My dear student, then d over dx, or derivative f of gx, equals f dash gx times derivative of gx. My dear student, this rule very important. When we find derivative of function, the first function f composed of gx, we find f dash of gx times derivative of gx. If f is derivative or if differentiable function with respect to x and n is real number, then d over dx f of x for all power n equals what? X and student equals n multiply f of x n minus 1. d over dx function for all power n, we write n times f of x for all n minus 1. This important rule. Multiply derivative inside bracket f of x or f dash x. My dear student, d over dx or derivative function for all power n equals n f of x for all n minus 1 multiply f dash of x. My dear student, y equal f of x, d over dx of y power n equals n y power n minus 1 dy over dx. My dear student, y function of x, what is the required? Differentiation with respect to x for all y for all power n. Therefore, d over dx y power n equals n y power n minus 1 multiply derivative y respect to x. Now, my dear student, we translate to derivative of cotangent function. The previous lessons in first and secondary, we were studied sine, cosine, and tan is called trigonometry function. And we know that we use trigonometry function in our life when find length or height of building, distance between main and any building, in another state as elevation angle, depression angle, and we use it when find measure of angle between two sides. As example, if a man is as a distant 30 meter from tower, and its tower, its height 100 meter, what is the angle or what is the elevation angle when a man observes the top of the tower or the top of the building? In this case, we use sine or cosine or tan. Excellent student. Tan. Why? Because we have opposite side and adjacent side. Opposite side, its height of the building or the tower, and the distance between the man and the base of the tower is adjacent side. Sine theta equal opposite over adjacent. After that, we find theta, this angle, which included between the hypotenuse side and adjacent side. This angle is very important to know it. As another example, the earth and the sun, the earth is rotate by angles. How many angles when calculate it by the same lesson, sine, cosine or tan or trigonometry function? Now, my dear student, we find derivative of cotangent. What is the cotangent? Cotangent is inverse trigonometry function of the tan. Tangent of angle or tan theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Tan opposite over adjacent. Tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. If we have opposite side and adjacent side, we find tan theta by divided sine over cosine or opposite over adjacent. This is tan. What is the multiplicative inverse or reciprocal of tan? It's called cotangent. Cotangent means 1 over tan or cosine over sine. Remember, my dear student, tan theta, its derivative 6 square. But what is the derivative? What you mean of the derivatives? We deduce more function. We use it in our life as cotangent. Cotangent is cosine over sine. What is the derivative of the cotangent? My dear student, look at derivative of the cotangent of angle. Derivative of cotangent function, fy equal cotangent x, where x belongs to cotangent, not equals n by n equal n belongs to z. What is the z? My dear student, integer numbers, positive number, negative number, and zero number. dy over dx of cotangent equals negative cosec power 2x. This rule, derivative of cotangent equal negative cosec power 2x. The first rule in differentiation of trigonometry function in third or in this year is derivative of cotangent. Derivative of cotangent negative cosec squared x. Not that, my dear student. dy over dx over cotangent d over dx 1 over tan x. 1 over tan x means d over dx cosine x over sine x. Why? Because tan equals sine over cosine, but 1 over tan equals cosine over sine. What is the rule? Who will find derivative of numerator or fraction function, numerator over denominator? We find denominator power 2 or square. After that, write denominator multiply derivative of numerator minus numerator derivative of denominator. Look at, my dear student, look at the derivative of cosine over sine equals fraction, denominator sine x for all power 2 and sine x multiply derivative of cosine, negative sine, minus cosine times derivative of sine equal cosine. Answer is, my dear student, negative 1 over sine x square. What you mean, my dear student? 1 over sine x, this is x and student multiplicative inverse of cosec equals negative cosec square x. Therefore, this proof of y derivative of cotan equals negative cosec square x. Derivative of secant function. What is the meaning of secant function? Sec x. Look at, my dear student, if y equals sec x, where x belongs to R, x not equals to n plus 1 over 2 by, and n belongs to z. Sec x, what is the sec x? Sec is multiplicative inverse of x and student, cosine. What you mean? Sec equals 1 over cosine. Good. Or cosine times sec equals 1. Therefore, derivative of sec equals sec tan this rule. Remember, my dear student, derivative of cotan negative sec square, but derivative of sec x tan x. Derivative of cosec function, if y equal cosec x, what is the derivative of cosec? By the same of method, x belongs to R, x not equals n by, n belongs to z. Therefore, derivative of cosec equal negative cosec cotan. My dear student, remember, we have 3 rules, very important. The last one, look at in the screen, dy over dx cosec x equals negative cosec cotan, negative cosec cotan x. My dear student, now we are translate to first example. The first example, find dy over dx for each of the following. Number A, y equals 3x power 5 plus 4 cotan x. Solution. Dy over dx, my dear student, by using derivative 15 or 3 times 5x power 4 multiply 4 plus 4 multiply negative cosec square x equals 15x power 4 minus 4 cosec power 2x. If y, my dear student, equals 3 sec x minus 5 tan x, what is dy over dx? Remember, my dear student, we have sec x and tan x. What is the derivative of sec x and student? Sec derivative sec tan. But what is the derivative of tan? X and student, sec squared x. By the same method, dy over dx equals what? 3 sec x tan x minus 5 sec squared x. And we can take sec x from first term and second term as common side. Therefore, c sec x multiply 3 minus 3 tan x minus 5 sec x. Number C. If y equals x power 3 cosec x, find dy over dx. My dear student, look at y equals x power 3 cosec x. Find dy over dx. The function y equals x power 3 cosec x. What is the derivative of multiply of two functions? The first derivative second plus second derivative first. What is the derivative of x power 3? Excellent students, 3x power 2. What is the derivative of cosec? Excellent student, cosec equals cosec cotan by negative. Look at the solution, dy over dx, first derivative second plus second derivative first. Therefore, answer is x squared cosec x multiply bracket contain 3 minus x cotan x. My dear student, this rule multiply or derivative of multiply of two function 3x squared cosec x plus x3 multiply bracket contains negative cosec x cotan x equals highest common factor x squared cosec x multiply bracket contains 3 minus x cotan x. Number D, if we have y equals 1 minus cotan x over 1 plus cotan x, find dy over dx. Remember, my dear student, we have fraction function, numerator function and denominator function. What is the rule? Denominator power 2 or denominator square. After that, write denominator in numerator, multiply derivative of numerator minus numerator, multiply derivative of denominator. Look at the solution. dy over dx, look at the denominator, 1 plus cotan x squared. After that, write 1 plus cotan x, multiply derivative of cotan, cosec, negative cosec square, and negative times negative equal cosec power 2x minus 1 minus cotan x multiply negative cosec power 2x over the same denominator 1 plus cotan x for all power 2. Therefore, dy over dx equal cosec power 2x multiply bracket contains 1 plus cotan x plus 1 minus cotan x over 1 plus cotan x for all power 2. Look at, my dear student, answer became 2 cosec power 2x over 1 plus cotan x for all power 2. My dear student, by the end of the lesson, we know that this lesson is very important. Its title, derivative of trigonometry function, and we know that derivative of cotan, negative cosec square, derivative of sec, sec tan, derivative of cosec, cosec cotan. This rule is very important rules to use it in the next lesson. My dear student, I am very happy to spend such time with you. Thank you. Goodbye.